So last year I made a video where I hiked the South Rim Trail, starting at the village and going east to Mather Point. Today I'm going to go west. I'm going to go out on the West Rim, on the Rim Trail. And it's going to follow the same basic idea that I did last time. Let's say you're on the train and you come up to the Grand Canyon and you've got a 3-hour layover. What are you going to do? And so I'm going to pack this trip and show you how you can do it in the 3-hour layover that you have available up at the South Rim. Of course, I only have 2 hours because I have to get back in time in order to get the train ready to go. So I have to get back earlier than the passengers. But if you have a full 3 hours, you can actually do a lot out on the West Rim. And the West Rim is going to start at the West Rim Interchange, which is on the west side of the village, just west of the Bright Angel Trail, the head of the Bright Angel Trail or the Kolb Studios. And it starts at this little shelter right here. And this is the West Rim Interchange. And there's a bus, they call it the Red Route, that will take you out on the West Rim. So you can see I went from the train over here to the West Rim Interchange right here. When you get on the bus, there'll be a recorded narration that explains to you the route and the bus procedures and things like that. So I'm just going to let you listen to that. And since it's kind of boring to just look out the windows while you're listening to the recording, I'm going to show you some photos from the Grand Canyon that I've taken at previous times for your entertainment. So I'll talk to you in a couple minutes.
The bus will stop at 9 scenic viewpoints on the way to Hermit's Rest, but will only make 3 stops on the return trip. Total time for the loop is approximately 80 minutes, not including the time you spend out enjoying the vistas. Hop off at any stop. Another bus will arrive every 10 to 15 minutes to offer you a ride to the next stop. If you choose not to complete the entire loop, announcements will indicate which stops will return to Grand Canyon Village as we approach them. For additional information, use the park newspaper guide to find the map and schedule for the entire shuttle bus system. Toilets are located at 2 stops along the route, Hopi Point and Hermit's Rest. Announcements will indicate these stops as we approach them. Remember to drink plenty of water while enjoying the views. The only place to refill water bottles and purchase snack food is at Hermit's Rest. For your own safety, stay on the path and at least 2 meters or about 6 feet away from the edge at all times. Finally, please do not feed or approach wildlife. Use your newspaper guide centerfold to review this information. Again, this bus will stop 9 times on the way to Hermit's Rest and 3 times while returning, taking about 80 minutes, not including the time you spend out enjoying the views. If you exit the bus, another bus will arrive at each stop every 10 to 15 minutes. The last bus of the day makes its return trip to Grand Canyon Village 1 hour after sunset. We hope you enjoy Grand Canyon along the Hermit's Rest Red Route.
So there's really 3 options. You can either ride the bus out and walk back, walk out and ride the bus back, or walk both ways. Or I guess a 4th option, ride the bus both ways. I chose to ride the bus out and walk back. There's 2 main reasons for this. The first, walking, I can control my pace, my speed, and know what time I'm going to get somewhere. So because I had a limited amount of time, that is the easier part for me to control. When you're on the bus may pull up, it may be crowded, you may be in a long line, and you may not be able to get on that bus. You may have to wait for another bus, and that's something that's out of your control. So I decided to do the bus first because that was the most risky, and then hiking on my own as the second half of the trip, because that one I can control. Now the second aspect is it's all downhill coming back to the village, so that makes hiking a little bit easier. I decided that Mojave Point was the farthest I could go on the bus and have enough time in order to walk back to the village. So it took about a 15-minute bus ride to get to Mojave Point, and I have about 4 miles to go back to the village. So this is Mojave Point, one of the beautiful overlooks out here on the West Rim. We can cross over there is Hopi Point. You do get views of the Colorado River from here, some pretty good ones. It's very muddy. There's been some rain and I think some flooding in the inner canyon and upstream. Pima Point is this one over there, the next one, and then behind that would be Hermit's Rest, which is back in that other canyon. The Hermit Trail would go down through that canyon over there, down towards the river. So it's 1 o'clock, and I've got an hour and a half to make it back to the village, and here we go. The trail has mile markers along it, and it's measuring miles from Hermit's Rest. So this is 4.8 miles from Hermit's Rest. It's about 8 miles back to the village. Hopi Point is my next stop. If I was to turn and go farther west, then the Abyss would be the next overlook. That's 1.1 miles. As you can see, the trail doesn't really venture very far from the road. The road is pretty close. The trail is definitely not for the faint of heart. That is a pretty sheer drop right there. But the views are spectacular. All right, I don't know if you guys can see down there on the river, but you see a rapid. I'm not sure which rapid that is. Could be Hermit's Rapids. But just downstream from the rapid, so just a little farther away, there are 2 boats. Those are river rafts on a trip through the canyon. It takes 7 days, but they're just specks out there on that water. That's how far away we are from the river. So this is Hopi Point. It's probably one of the best viewpoints in Grand Canyon National Park on the South Rim. It does have views of probably around 200, 230 degrees or so. You can really see quite a bit in both directions from here. Great spot for sunrise and sunset. Definitely one of the best places to watch a sunset. You can see the river a little bit down there. And over here is Powell Point, or the Powell Memorial. We'll be there in a few minutes. Powell Memorial at Powell Point is dedicated to Major John Wesley Powell, who was known to be the first person to lead an expedition in 1869 to traverse the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon by boat. Powell Point also gives you an overview of the old Orphan Mine, which is located between here and Maricopa Point. For more history on the Orphan Mine, you can look at gcrahistory.org. Here's a few historic photos I found of the old Grand Canyon Inn at the Orphan Mine location. Can you imagine swimming in this pool right on the edge of the Grand Canyon? That's where we're going next. And you can see over there in the distance, that is Yavapai Point and the Yavapai Geology Station, which if you have seen my trip to on the Trail of Time, going on the Rim Trail to the east, we went there to the Yavapai Geology Station. And here is a California condor. Sometimes you can see these at the south rim of the canyon. They're actually been reintroduced here in the area. They're released from an area near Lee's Ferry, which is a couple hours drive from here. I actually haven't seen one the last couple times I've been here. They're distinctive. They're sometimes confused with turkey vultures, but the California condors have white under their wings, and they're a little bit larger than a vulture. Well, a little bit more about the Orphan Mine. I can remember first time coming to the Grand Canyon. I want to say it was 1984, here with some family when I was a kid, and that head frame was still standing. It actually was just taken down, I'm guessing maybe 10 years ago, and the trail used to actually go right there along the edge of the rim. Basically, you can walk right underneath that head frame or right up to it. I mean, the head frame itself might have been fenced off, but you could walk, almost right up to it. And now they have this whole area sectioned off. So the trail now goes around it. It almost goes all the way out to the road and then circles around. And see the sign there, rehabilitation area. So they're trying to keep people out. It's interesting history. The Grand Canyon was developed originally on mining before it was tourism. So piece of history lost when they took the Orphan Mine down. One of the last mines, the active mines here in Grand Canyon National Park. And also, interestingly enough, the ore from the Orphan Mine was hauled out of here by railroad. So they would take the ore from here down to the village where the railroad comes in, and there was a small spur there where they would load up cars. And I don't know, box cars, I'm not sure what type of cars they used, and then haul the uranium ore out that way. So the Orphan Mine shut down in 1969. Railroad stopped hauling freight in 74, I think. 71, 74, somewhere right in there. So that was the end of freight business at Grand Canyon. Our next stop is Maricopa Point. And from Maricopa Point, we can take a look back to the west to Hopi Point, which is one of the highest points in elevation along the South Rim. And so there is a fire tower there where they man it to watch for forest fires in the area. And also that's lots of communication arrays, communication towers and things are mounted up there as well.
Alright, we got a lot. I'll redo this. My finger was in one of the 5 cameras. One of the 5 cameras. I'll take pictures. Wait, just you. You can look below. Yeah. Did you do portrait? Okay. Oh, that's a good portrait one. Yeah. What's that?
Last time I was here 10 days ago, there was a family of Bighorn sheep just below the rim back there. There's 4 of them. One was a baby, and the mom was calling to the baby, and that's how I knew that they were there. Some other people had seen them as well or were watching them, so that kind of also helped to give it away. But you just never know what you're going to find along here. So I don't see any Bighorn sheep today, but did see that California condor, which I haven't seen one of those in quite a while, so that's a little bit of a surprise. So keep your eyes and ears open, and you might see all kinds of interesting things. Our last overlook before we head back to the village is Bright Angel Trail Overlook, or they call it Trail View. It's also a good spot where you can overlook the village. The Bright Angel Trail was actually constructed by Ralph Cameron prior to Grand Canyon National Park being established, and it was a toll road and privately owned. When Grand Canyon National Park was created in 1919, the Park Service and also the Fred Harvey Company were very disappointed and upset by the fact that the main thoroughfare, hiking thoroughfare into the depths of the Grand Canyon was privately owned and a toll road. So the Park Service created the Kaibab Trail to compete, which takes off east of here, and the Fred Harvey Company created the Hermit Trail, which leaves from Hermit's Rest in competition with the Bright Angel Trail that was created by Ralph Cameron. It's 9 miles down to the river, 4.5 miles to Indian Gardens, then 9 miles to the river. You can cross the river on a bridge and get to Phantom Ranch and connect with the North Kaibab Trail, which can take you up to the North Rim. This last part of the trail after between Powell Point and the village is paved. It's pretty nice. Downhill a little bit. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit more about the Bright Angel Trail. If you look right down there, zoom in a little bit, right in there you see the 1.5-mile rest stop. 3-mile rest stop. I just saw it. It was down below there. So it's 4.5 miles to Indian Gardens. And at the 1.5-mile mark and the 3-mile mark, there are rest stops where there's composting toilets and water and a little shelter with some shade. The reason there's water along this trail and not on any others in the Grand Canyon, and this is potable water from a spigot that you can just dunk your head underneath and drink straight from it, not creek water that you have to filter or anything like that. But the reason there's water is because the village over here gets their water supply from a spring on the north rim of the canyon called Roaring Springs, and there's a pumping station down at Indian Gardens and a pipeline that runs up to the rim to supply the village. And so those water stops on the trail are taking water from that pipeline. They're right along the pipeline, and they're strategically located in order to get water from the pipeline, so that's why you have potable water. Well, I made it back. All trails listed my distance, hiking distance, as 4 miles, and total travel time, including the bus ride and stops, was just about 2 hours. So I accomplished my goals. All right, hope you guys enjoyed.